You're listening to The Real Short Box, a comic book podcast made for geeks by geeks.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for coming out and listening to The Real Short Box. My name is Donald.
And my name is Supreme Chancellor Kevin.
And I'm Darin, and have decided to take away your title of Supreme Chancellor.
Oh.
You lost the election fair and square, sir.
No, I did not.
Yes, you did.
No, I
yes,
did
you
not.
did. I remember.
Well, then in that case, perhaps I'm just going to have to take it from you.
Well, has a Supreme
Whoa.
Chancellor ever been elected anywhere?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think they usually just take whatever they want.
Well, we select ourselves.
It kind of works well with what we're going to be talking about today, because we're going to be talking about world domination and basically kind of a what-if scenario. Like, who got the closest to world domination? Or, in other words, who, if given the right materials, can possibly conquer the world and maybe even the universe. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, there's a wide variety of comic characters that we reviewed. And obviously, we're not going to bore you to death with our process and everything. But there is a process behind this. And at the end of the day, is it our opinion? Sure. But look, there's a lot of research that gets put into this. And not every single person is capable of world domination. I didn't think for 1 second, like Electro could dominate the world.
No, not really. No, I was thinking sometimes it's pure ego that gets in the way,
Yeah, but also, too, some people, they also don't have the power to dominate the world.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
talking about the world here, everybody. So you're going to probably hear some of your absolute favorite characters being brought to life in this. With all that being said, who wants to kick this off?
Shouldn't it be you?
Yeah, I vote for Darin.
See, the problem is, were I a Supreme Chancellor, you wouldn't be voting.
Since I am the Supreme Chancellor,
Go on.
I'm making you go
Here
first.
we go.
Okay, here we go again. All right, so here we go, guys. So here's the way I kind of look at this. When it comes to world domination, there's a lot of certain things, of course, you have to consider. They say when you're writing a story that a hero is only as good as their villain. Well, when it came to world domination, for me, a villain is only as good as the hero that stands in their way. And for me, I'm going to have to go with Brainiac, guys. Especially teaming with Lex Luthor. To me, there's no question that Brainiac has all the tools to dominate the world, and he was the absolute closest. Okay, obviously, just a quick review. Technopathy. He can transfer his consciousness into computers and organic life forms. Now, here's what's interesting about that. Do you guys remember that movie Oblivion with Tom Cruise?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so essentially they're gathering water off the planet, this so-called alien race and whatever. So Tom Cruise is essentially a clone, and there's Tom Cruises basically all over the planet doing this. These people legitimately had no understanding why they were doing what they were doing and no memory of why they were doing it. This realistically is what Brainiac can do to your mind, and not just an individual, multitudes of people. He can absolutely conquer your consciousness, and you will never, ever know.
That's pretty scary.
Think about this, because in many ways, to win wars, you're not necessarily firing shots all the time. You could absolutely conquer somebody without ever firing shots. And this is the ultimate one for me. Obviously, he's telepath, kinetic, rivals the strength of Superman. Now, I would debate under certain circumstances he could defeat Superman. And anybody who can defeat Superman, who's going to get in your way? Like, seriously, if you defeat Superman...
Batman.
Yes, absolutely.
What about the Spectre?
And by absolutely, I mean absolutely not.
Yeah, Calypso even.
That's true, Eclipso.
We have lots of powerful people, but from my point of view, I just don't know, how do you defeat Superman? Like, oh, well, he has this vulnerability to kryptonite. How much kryptonite is there in the world?
Have Magneto make some.
Ooh.
And that's a throwback to one of our old comic book battles that we did, the
Old pods.
Superhero Smackdowns.
Which you can find in the archives.
Now, do you guys also remember, like, they call Brainiac the collector of worlds? This is a man who essentially, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but basically he shrinks down these worlds into, like, his little thing. If you can shrink down an entire world, how could you not dominate the known world?
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy that he's thinking about preservation to an extreme. basically he was like, okay, well, these people can't police themselves. They're going to end up blowing up their planet or whatever. So I need to just take pieces of these planets.
I want to start my own cosmic zoo, basically.
Right, yeah, and create a cosmic zoo and have all these under lock and key. I get that to a point.
One of my favorite things that Brainiac did is when he took over the internet and he had factories building his own robots to help, take over Earth. Mm-hmm. That's really extraordinary power. I don't know how many supervillains are capable of this. So according to an article in Business Insider, okay, just think about this. A power grid attack would essentially... It would just destroy the United States for days, possibly weeks, okay? We're talking about a standstill in a country if the grid shut down. Bigger consequences than a natural disaster, depending on who you ask. No, lights out, no phone, internet, heating, air, conditioning. We're very dependent on our power grid. Could you imagine the possibility? This is possibly a story, if you want to bring Brainiac back, attacking the power grid, as this is in the news quite frequently. He easily could do that. And once again, you could defeat us without firing a shot. Mm-hmm. So that, to me, is the big thing. He's got the hero in his way that is a virtually indestructible hero, and this man can do things without you realizing he actually did them to you. And I think that is the most effective way at world domination. I don't think throwing bombs, threatening with force is necessarily as effective as the tactic Brainiac is able to use.
I can get that. I can dig that. There's always a counter, even, no matter what we mention. When I come to mention somebody, somebody's going to have a counter to that. There's always a way, because otherwise, how does the hero win? You have to create these scenarios. Mm-hmm. When you were mentioning Brainiac and you were talking about mind control and stuff, the first thing that popped in my head was Starro. Starro the Conqueror. Starro the World Conqueror. Basically, it's a giant starfish that throws down tiny starfish that if it lands on you, will then make you part of the hive mind that is the giant Starro. You will do anything he tells you to.
It's kind of a less violent version of the xenomorph facehugger. In a way. Less, like, it won't kill you. It'll just
maybe an appearance, but I think he's talking, sorry, Coach, I think he's talking more along the lines of maybe like a puppet master.
Like a puppet master, yes.
Yeah, more like a puppet master. We don't want them bursting out of their chests and creating more Starros. Because I don't think that's going to be conducive to what you want it to do. What you want these people to do. You want them to go about their business, and when you need them, imagine that you could play God, and if you were bored, you could say, well, I'm going to make that guy just drop everything and fight this other guy for no reason. But you can't just... You have to have some type of a semblance of creating a reason in the mind of the other surrounding people. So, was this guy unstable? How was his childhood? Things like that start to come into play that people start to try to put together. But if their mind's controlled, then there's really nothing that you need to say or do. And these other people aren't thinking anything. They're just going about their business. And these two people are just beating the snot out of each other. Just for the whim and the joy of the puppet master. Mm-hmm. In which case, it's not really so much, I guess it's world domination, but it's more about just, I don't know, like complete control and creating nothing. Like if you're just controlling, and just for the fact of controlling, which you're creating nothing, and that's probably the scariest part about that. You're not trying to do anything. You're not trying to make anything better. You have no cause. You're just trying to control, for the sake of control.
And he has the tools. I'm assuming he has virtually an infinite amount of these stars that he can throw. Mm-hmm. So I mean, if you've got the tools to be able to take over the world, once again, you're not having to kill anybody. You just have to just basically drop a star on him, and memory is wiped.
But some supervillains get off on killing a bunch of people.
Some do.
That's true.
Some do. Maybe even you might know some.
Yeah.
Supervillains.
Well, and if you don't, you can always stop at the #1 comic shop in the entire United States, Spiro's Heroes. Oh, sorry to interrupt, everyone. Just wanted to mention real quick about a shop in Canoga Park, California called Spiro's Heroes. Elliot, the proprietor of the store, has over 300,000 books in what's called the Temple of Comics. That's Spiro Heroes in Canoga Park, spirosheroes.com. All right, okay. Well, if that doesn't give you an idea on where you can find some truly villainous characters and some great stories, I don't know what will.
You should always visit the Temple of Comics to get your fix of super villainy.
And you said the best comic shop in the United States. 100% verified true.
You better believe it.
I've been all over. You can just ask around.
That's true. You visited many comic shops across this great land, and you can verify with authenticity and veracity.
A lot of shops have their own uniqueness and are very, very good to a particular point. Some cater more towards the new books. Some cater more towards the variants. There's a new shop that just popped up in the Chatsworth area, We Can Be Heroes.
That's correct.
Very recently, and they seem to specialize a lot in variant covers of books.
Yes, they're a lover of variant covers.
So if you do want to get some variants, I would recommend hitting them up or looking them up on Instagram or
Land
Facebook.
of variant books.
Well, what's kind of interesting, too, is especially when you pop across comic shops across the land, a lot of them are older, and there's a certain datedness factor to it. And some people prefer that, and some people do not. But, there's a shop we go to in Burbank from time to time that looks a little more fresh, a little less dated. And, if that's your thing, go there. But for those of us that are like, wow, these comics, you're buying comics that were published in the 60s, in the 70s. You don't need a 2019 spin on it necessarily.
Yeah, and I don't care how much air freshener you have, you're not going to make those books smell new.
Nor should you.
No, those books have an old must smell to them because it's paper. It's printed paper. It's old.
Newsprint.
That's what comic book collectors, when they go into a shop and they're hardcore collectors, that's what they want to smell.
They want to sniff that classic newsprint.
Right. Yeah, Elliot, the owner of Spiro's Heroes, he's still to this day. I've seen him do it, Kevin. You've seen him too. He'll pull out a book out of a plastic and he'll open the page and he'll bury his nose right down in there and smell the paper, the book itself.
That retro smell.
Yeah, Kevin gets high off it, actually.
Well, why shouldn't you?
Sexually, actually.
Well, I don't know about that, but I get high enough that it brings joy to my heart.
World domination.
And his penis.
World domination.
Kevin, what are your thoughts on villains who had the potential at world domination?
Well, one of my personal favorites, and this kind of coincides a little bit with Donald, Dr. Doom.
Okay, now if you're
He's worth $100 billion, according to...
Now, real quickly, Kevin, before you do this,
Yes.
and for the next few sentences, could you please speak as Doom in the third person?
All right. Dr. Doom.
Who he refers to himself as Doom!
Doom does not care to refer to Doom as Doom.
Doom gets what he wants. Doom will dominate.
Doom says as he pleases and does whatever he pleases.
$100 billion, really?
Yes, according to the fictional...
Well, he owns Latvia, right?
Yeah, why not? Latveria owns the land.
Is it Latvia or Latveria?
Latveria.
Latvia is like a real country, correct?
Yes, Latvia is a real country.
Okay.
The Baltic.
Yeah,
yes.
well, you don't want that one then.
Wow, that's messed up. Have some respect.
So, Doom, share with us, Doom.
Well, let's see here.
Doom?
Doom.
I want to hear, what's his face that played Bane?
Oh, I can't do that.
Talking about Doom!
Yeah, I want him to say Doom.
I can't do that.
Who is that guy? What's his name? I can never remember his name.
The guy who played Bane?
Yeah.
Tom Hardy.
Thank you. Tom Hardy.
My goodness.
Played Venom, too.
Yeah. And he's playing Ebenezer Scrooge.
Well, he could play
2 coming up. Weird.
Donald, isn't it great how
very
we
talented.
always cut Kevin off when he's about to make a point?
Yeah.
It's a real talent.
It is.
It's a very good talent. But now you will be doomed. Doom has genius level intellect, technopathy, energy absorption.
Whoa. What's technopathy? You can't just say it.
The ability to use technology to your advantage, to take over technology.
Telepathically.
Yes.
Telepathically?
You're
shitting me. He
just
can
like
control-
Brainiac.
Whoa. So Doom could essentially fight Brainiac over
Yes, he can.
your Blu-ray player.
Yes, he can. It's basically the ability to control and manipulate electronics with the mind.
Can you imagine
and
the two of
his
them?
power suit can do it.
Sitting on a couch with you and you're trying to watch something. Doom does not care for this. Doom wants to watch.
Doom wants to watch Game of Thrones.
Right, right, yeah. And Brainiac's like, I'm kind of hankering for Stranger Things.
No,
what do you do? What do
I
you
know.
do?
You got a
back
problem.
Back and forth, yeah.
And your remote control is going to be useless.
Doom does not care what Brainiac wants. Boy, God. And then you've got Conan the Barbarian sitting in the other chair, but just slicing shit with his sword.
Doom does not like the iPhone. Doom likes the smartphone. Let's make them fight.
Yes, I think that would be a...
Yeah, because
be a fun
basically,
time.
like I said, I'll repeat again. Technopathy is the ability to control and manipulate electronics with your mind. I mean, how awesome is that?
Pretty awesome.
Let's
dude.
ask Brainiac, who I said would dominate the world.
Well,
That's
first
true.
of all, can Brainiac use energy absorption and projection, mind transference, demonic summoning via dark mysticism and sorcery? Can Brainiac do that?
Now, Brainiac, in my view, can pretty much do all those things. The sorcery I would call into question, though, because it depends how you define sorcery.
It's true. If he was using technology back in the Middle Ages, that could be defined as sorcery. I
Well,
guess.
Doom has access to sorcery knowledge of thousands and thousands, if not millions of years.
Okay.
So therefore, Doom can take care of business.
But how does this fit into world domination?
Doom can use his sorcery to actually at one point, he had the ability to become the Sorcerer Supreme.
Oh!
So what does that tell you?
At one point, he also became Doom God. The
Yes.
Doom God, right?
Doom
I
God.
believe is what he called himself,
Yes,
the Doom God.
he defeated the Beyonder. And as many of the audience may know or may not know, the Beyonder was a multiversal, powerful, godlike figure.
He became the creator of all and the ender of all.
Yes.
Doom became the beginning and the end.
Because Doom is
It was
the
nuts.
alpha. Doom is the alpha and the omega.
Of course.
Everything rested upon his shoulders. And he was like, he was a god. He's like Zeus, basically, is what you could call him. He was on Mount Olympus.
Doom is above Zeus.
But
Well,
one thing that I can test always is that with world domination, villain is as good as their hero. Now, the Fantastic Four are
Yes.
quite a
Yes.
difficult barrier for
Yes.
Doctor Doom.
Mr. Fantastic is, for what it's worth, somewhat of Doom's equal intellectually.
Why didn't Doom ever have, like, the Doom 5?
It's a good question, but I think his ego as such is like...
Doom does not need others.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or if Doom does need others, it's just temporarily.
Well, it's a shame because if he could play well with others, I know exactly one person that he could work well with.
Oh, I think I know who this is.
Yeah.
Who is it?
Should I say?
Please say his name.
I went with Lex Luthor on mine, and I normally I don't like to talk about Lex Luthor because he's been talked about a million goddamn times in the movies and television shows. Mm-hmm. That's all you hear. Lex Luthor, Lex Luthor, Lex Luthor. I like Brainiac. I like hearing about that. When they did the what was it, Krypton series?
Krypton, yeah.
Doing the Krypton series and doing Brainiac and that was brilliant. I was like, okay.
Long time coming.
I'm all in, yeah, because it's finally somebody besides Lex Luthor that I don't have to hear about. But how he can work is Doom has an ego problem. Plus, he has he's one of those he's a John Kerry. He's just very one note, monotone, bland, not the most attractive looking man in the world. And then you get somebody who I would say is very charismatic, relatively good-looking man, Lex Luthor, and you team them up, and I think you could get lightning in a bottle.
Oh, I think you can.
Basically, Lex Luthor currently would be called Jeff Bezos or Bezos. He would be he would be the Amazon of
He's a mogul.
Metropolis. Yeah. He has access to a bunch of laboratories and scientific things and stuff. But if he went the Jeff route, the Bezos route, we would see a lot of different things. And mind you, we're talking about Lex Luthor, who at one point in time became the president of the United States.
Right.
So I'm not saying that's currently the case, but like Lex Luthor becoming president was a very scary thing to a lot of people because this is a guy that was a villain for so long with the basically the fate of the world in his hands, the free world anyway. And so we put Luthor in this kind of Amazonian world, so to speak, currently. Imagine Luthor with the capability to have drones delivering packages to everybody's home for whatever they should need. Now, how does Luthor get in charge of something like that? Well, that's where Doom comes in on this.
With the access to the Doom bots.
Not only the Doom bots, but his country.
His country.
Being the testing ground for that.
Yes.
Meaning that they had started the first facility there and are working there and then started delivering around his country, around Doom's country. Doom sees how efficient this is, and also how devious this can be, because while you're delivering, you're also scanning.
Yes.
And you're knowing every location, everybody. We've got Google Maps, I get that, but we're talking an in-depth scan by a drone, 360 around somebody's house, every house in an entire country that lets them in to deliver these packages.
And then when the time is right.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, you've got them when the time is right. Well, what happens is that everybody starts to open up worldwide to these deliveries. But some don't trust the drones. They're like, well, we don't want drones, airspace, yada, yada, yada. Okay, well, then that's where they put the hubs for delivery. They create these hubs. Well, they need a workforce. What's cheaper in a workforce than Doombots?
Yes, robots.
Doombots.
You don't have to pay them.
Work for free. Yeah, you just have to create them. Who's got the backing for that? Besides Doom, Luthor. LexCorp,
and
yeah,
and
it has the
Latveria
technology.
together.
Latveria has the mysticism element. If they can't figure something out, just create it.
Now, I hate to be the person who's going to pour water on this, as I'm sure you were paying attention earlier when I was talking of Brainiac.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I think a lot of this would work is because Luthor teamed with Brainiac. And there's a lot of similarities here to that. Now, obviously, where Doom, I think, could have an advantage is that having his own country. That's something. Brainiac, yes, he's a keeper of worlds, but those worlds don't want to work for Brainiac.
Right.
They want to be basically there. But if you offer people a few bucks, they'll work for Doom. Because think about this: Brainiac used the internet to build his own robots. Just like the Doom bots. Brainiac obviously teamed with Luthor only because he's like, I need somebody with a 12th level intellect to work with. So yeah, this is why I believe a lot of this could happen, and I do think there's a massive advantage to not only having Luthor being the former president of the United States, which makes him a very well-known person, but obviously too having the resources that Dr. Doom has. And Brainiac has resources too, but he doesn't have resources that are necessarily conducive for Earth, the $100 billion of worth and things of that nature.
Funny you brought this up, because Kevin and I came up with the idea of teaming Luthor with Doom here not long ago, and we had no idea that you were going to use Luthor as part of your campaign either. So
Right.
It's funny that both of us have this linchpin in there that's Lex Luthor. To kind of the tie that binds.
Tether, I like that.
Either way, I think that Luthor, his biggest thing against him is his humility and the fact that he doesn't have any.
No.
Luthor is pretty much, if he could get away with calling himself Luthor says, and like Doom does, he would do it, but he can't. He was raised in a savvy businessman world and just happened to be able to create certain things. He's the most human of us.
Of course.
And he's the most human of these villains. He's probably the most human villain you'll see across the board, because he's so easily relatable to a guy that owns and runs Amazon.com. I mean, how close of a relation do you need a character to be? That's Luthor. That's why he's that linchpin for both of our world. He's there to bring in the human element. He was McCain saying, "I want Sarah Palin," to try to bring in the female vote.
Expand your base.
And to expand the base. Yeah, he's the humanistic side to expand the base. So
Luthor
speak.
can make this stuff happen.
Yeah, Luthor can make stuff happen.
He can sell it to the public.
He definitely could sell it, because if at this point in time, if he's not in jail and people are still buying his products and stuff, he can sell you anything. The guy's the biggest snake oil salesman in the world. It's just his snake oil happens to work.
Well, if you were elected president of the United States, at least by, numbers, we would have to assume in today's population at least 65 million people voted for you.
Close
So
enough, yeah.
obviously, if let's say he had even more people than that voting for him, of course, there will be people that don't like him, but there will be a large group of people that also like him.
That's
So,
right.
You can
And
sell
they'll buy
to
the
that.
product.
Yeah, precisely, because they know your name. And the name recognition is a big deal when you're branding.
People know the name of Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
And let's just be real. Amazon is just as convenient as it gets. I mean, this is a company that has legitimately changed the world.
Guys, they deliver on Sundays.
They saved the post office. The post office was dead. Now the post office is profiting like crazy.
Because of LexCorp.
Yeah. Well, in a way, yeah. I mean, they have the post office still deliver stuff. And, I give credit to eBay there, too, as far as, like, bolstering the post office.
Yeah.
And Federal Express with their FedEx Smart Post teaming with the post office. So if it's lighter packages, they'll deliver to the local post office. The local post office do the final delivery. That helps, bring up the post office revenue and helps them stay afloat. They still are losing money in a way, but the hemorrhaging hopefully is less than it once was.
But as you and I, Donald, together experienced a few years back, going into FedEx is no different than going into a funeral. Oh my God. You want to talk about low energy everywhere.
Mm-hmm. God, that's a nightmare. That's a goddamn nightmare. You go in there, no one gives a shit.
Really? FedEx people have been like that to you?
Yeah, I mean, well, okay, so if I have to have somebody delivering a package to my place, pound for pound, it'd be the postal service. I don't know what it is. I've always been pretty lucky with getting nice postal
What about
workers.
Ups? Ups is pretty good.
UPS here in LA is shit. Don't even try to. They're shit. They say that they'll come at certain times. They deliver hours after hour, like 5 or 6 hours later. Well, I had a guy knock on my door at 9 p.m. at night delivering my package.
You're kidding.
I shit you not. 9 p.m. at night. I'm like, motherfucker, just wait till tomorrow. Don't bother me now.
Let's go to DHL.
9
We
p.m.
officially will not be canvassing UPS to be a sponsor.
Right.
Why not DHL?
DHL doesn't deliver nationally,
But
they're an international service.
Isn't DHL owned by somebody that's also in the transporting postal service? Or am I missing something?
I'm not
here?
sure,
I'm not sure.
but I know that they're big in China and India, and that's how DHL survives. Is that they do very well over there. They know those routes extremely well, and they're
sure.
competitive there. But outside of that, when they tried to break into the United States delivery world, they didn't last long. A couple years, I think, maybe 3-4 years, and they were out the door. They're like, "No, we're pulling the plug." They just couldn't compete.
But Doom and Lex Luthor together could clearly monopolize this service.
Monopolize the entire
Obviously.
planet.
Overstock.com will not exist.
Oh, no.
Nor should it.
And this alliance will produce, I believe, $1 trillion, at least $1 trillion in revenue.
Now, real quick, while we were coming up with these guys, did you have any other names that you thought of? Somebody that might do something?
Well, it's funny. We had a quick discussion about Galactus, and you said he doesn't have the intention to take over the world, which I do agree with you. But ironically, he can still do it, even though he doesn't want to, because I just think he has a sufficient amount of power to be able to do this, and it's a common thread in the Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four, do they not face like the largest villains in
Fantastic
comics?
Four has some of the toughest, like, cosmic and
Yeah, but
interdimensional villains.
They really do. I
they
mean,
have
the
some
X-Men would shit their pants if they came across some of these people.
yeah.
Annihilus,
But like
Molecule Man.
But like Galactus, I mean, in many respects, like Galactus, his just made the mistake, giving the Silver Surfer all the power he did. But the reality is that Galactus is kind of an unstoppable force. But he would to me, unintentionally be taking over the world. And I'm sure one of you guys is probably going to talk about Thanos.
Oh, Thanos. Yeah, Thanos is an easy one. I wasn't going to actually... I mentioned him in passing when we were talking about Galactus, and it popped in my mind. But yeah, Thanos is an easy one just because of the gauntlet. Infinity Gauntlet, yeah, and the gems.
But even without it, he's still pretty powerful.
Even without it, he's pretty powerful. But he wanted to be able to erase worlds. And again, I think that's what kind of, in a way, like Galactus disqualifies him from that kind of thing, because he wants to erase worlds. The movies is different. A lot of people that watch the movies, they were like, oh, Thanos wants, to just thinning out the herd.
Mm-hmm.
Motherfucker, Thanos is not Ra's al Ghul. Ra's al Ghul wanted to thinning out the herd.
Right.
He was Thanos before there was Thanos. They took the idea from Ra's al Ghul to create the idea of the movie Thanos.
I'm glad you brought that up, because the comic book Thanos from the Infinity Gauntlet is a much more darker story in a sense, because I guess they figured, how do we translate his love for death onto the screen? Now, they kind of teased that at the end of the first Avengers movie, but they never really followed through on that per se.
Not at all.
But if you read the comic books, he is obsessed with death.
Yeah.
Like the embodiment of death.
Yeah, he wants to, and what he
Please
thinks,
her.
that will please her, is creating more death. So he wants to kill everything to please death.
So he can be with her.
So he could finally be with her. If everything didn't exist, she wouldn't have a job to do, and he could be with her and be
her lover,
Mr. Death or whatever. It's freaking weird, you know?
Yeah, so translate that to the screen, and you're trying to sell a bunch of toys. There was no way on earth they were going to do it that way.
No.
It's interesting. We attempted to get a guest here. Hopefully he will come on a future podcast. But he, in his spare time, would run computer programs that revolved around world domination. I'd love to have him come and discuss this at some point. But one thing he kept saying is that no matter how many times he ran the simulation, he couldn't find the exact pattern, if you were Thanos, of which half of the world to deliver or to eliminate. It would have to be completely at random. And, that's kind of intriguing to me, because Thanos and Ra's al Ghul, to me at least, the parallel is there's something political about their choices of, thinning out the herd. They think they're doing good, but obviously they're not, and nor should they be the ones that are deciding to do this. But what fascinates me so much about Ra's al Ghul, that he doesn't have anywhere near the superpowers Thanos does, yet the determination, the intelligence,
The will.
the ability to basically corrupt every level of every government in
League of
order
Shadows,
to
that's
get
what
what
they
he
call it.
wants.
League of Shadows.
I mean, that to me is very impressive for storytelling purposes, because there is a lot of reality to this. I mean, how many corrupt governments currently are in the world as we speak?
Dozens.
They call it genocide. He calls it, saving the earth.
Freedom.
Really, I mean, that's what it is. That's what he's spinning it as in his
Absolutely.
head. It's straight up genocide, but he's like, I mean, he's not trying to wipe out, like, let's get rid of every every person from Africa or whatever. Right.
Like that.
He's not trying to do that. But if they're a dumb person, yeah, you can go. You know what I mean? Like, Ra's al Ghul is very specific in the fact that he wants people that will create a higher stock of human. He wanted the Batman. He wanted Bruce Wayne to be of the beau of his daughter, Talia, because he wanted to create a superior stock. He wanted to create a superior child.
So he was using some kind of eugenics, like a eugenics in a way.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. So
Totally, yeah.
By the way, did you like Liam Neeson? Is that Ra's al Ghul?
I did.
Of course, they tricked us originally.
Right.
We thought it was
I prefer
Ken Watanabe.
I prefer Ken Watanabe because of the
look.
The look, and Ken's a solid actor. I like him. But that twist was nice, but there was just too much in that movie I didn't like for me to say it was a good movie by any means for me. I don't know. I stick with the Burton Batman. Both of them, actually, I really like.
Another one I wanted to mention real quick. You mentioned it earlier, briefly, Magneto.
Yeah.
Now that is, of course, another great complex villain.
Yep.
Because he believes he's doing the right thing. He's
It's nothing more dangerous than a man that believes he's
doing the right thing.
Exactly right.
I mean, he saw oppression from his ethnic or what we call it, ethnic or religious origin as a Jewish person, except for the Holocaust. But then his mutant powers and wanting
he was in a concentration camp. He had a stamp on his arm.
But then as a mutant and seeing the persecution that mutants are going through, he's like, no, we're not having this. He believes that mutants should be the top. So since you're putting us down, we're more powerful, we're superior, we're after all called Homo superior. Therefore, we need to dominate this world.
But what's interesting to me that I think really needs to be brought up is his, and it doesn't get talked about enough with Magneto, because obviously he has overwhelming powers. But one that doesn't get talked about is he's able to convince very dangerous mutants to carry out his plan.
Well, hey, there's a double meaning behind that name, isn't it? It's behind his being the master of magnetism.
Mm-hmm.
Look, it's very charismatic.
Look, and I'm telling you, I mean, of course, for my money, Ian McKellen was excellent casting, and Fassbender was as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
they did those right.
They did him in a different way. Ian, I was really not digging the casting when he was first announced. I was like, this old, frail white dude is playing, like, this guy's going to fall over and break himself. What's happening? But the gravitas that he brought to the role,
that's what you like,
sold me on it. And I began to realize, Magneto can't be how he is in the comics. He can't be rippled, stacked chest and, like built like Arnold Schwarzenegger and stuff. Dude's like in his 70s.
67, 60s,
Yeah.
70s,
Like, he can't be like that.
But
Not if we're talking that timeline.
Right, and then the younger Fassbender, now you're getting like, you're getting more sympathetic. You're learning where he's coming from.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes,
okay.
they did that character right, I feel. They did Magneto right.
Oh, yeah, and in many ways, I think a lot of the characters were done pretty well. The storylines are debatable. And
we could do a whole pod on all the X-Men movies and which ones work.
In fact, we should.
And which ones should be executed.
It's interesting. I know this friend of a show is a producer of one of the X-Men films. I don't know. Maybe I'm feeling saucy. I'll hit him up with an email if he's not out of the country, and maybe we can talk X-Men a little bit.
That would be awesome.
And we will be very polite about it, of course.
Of course. I'll keep all my article of clothes on. No problem. One other thing real quick about Magneto I wanted to mention. The fact that, and I know we mentioned this in an earlier podcast, one of the superhero SmackDowns, Magneto has the capability to change chemicals in the brain because he can affect certain metals, precious metals and things. Iron content and,
we saw that in X-Men too.
Gold and mercury and all these things that are in your body. He can manipulate the mind in a way, subtly. So he can almost do what the Purple Man can do. He can almost do what Brainiac can do, or Starro,
or his buddy Xavier,
right?
In a
way. Twist people to charismatically or magnetically believe in him and his thought process. But he doesn't really even need to do that because he's just so goddamn charismatic and charming. He's just good at what he does.
You can't be a supervillain and be super dumb. This is just not how this works.
No.
You understand? There's a big difference in intelligence between Magneto and the Rhino. Okay? It's just
Caliban.
It just is what it is, you know. Which, by the way, Paul Giamatti, best Rhino ever. Only Rhino ever. But best Rhino ever.
Yeah. By default, he's the best Rhino we've seen on the big screen.
And it's funny. You know what's funny about that? His co-star from Sideways was in another Spider-Man movie as Sandman.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
It was just Sandman.
Watch Sideways. It's a better film than either of those two.
Well, of course.
Well, Sandman, though, what's interesting, too, is, Sandman I like the Sandman character. I know Donald and I disagree as far as the comic books are concerned. But my thing is, I think we can all agree Sandman was done absolutely incorrectly in every single way in Spider-Man Part 3, and it damaged the movie for me in many respects.
Absolutely. Just shit all over that character.
Yeah, how about emo Peter Parker?
But
we still feeling emo Peter Parker?
Well, I'll say this, fellas. I would watch that Spider-Man 3 10 times over before I watched The Last Jedi again.
Oh, wow. We're getting off topic here.
Or Amazing Spider-Man 2, for that matter.
You know, it's funny. I've yet to watch it because you warned me about it. So I said, okay.
But that's going to be a podcast in of itself.
I won't waste my time on that
Your
one.
facial responses to watching Amazing Spider-Man 2. We're just going to record that.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
There's not many. Look, I have a high tolerance. I almost walked right out of that thing.
Blade Trinity, I almost walked out of.
Yeah, but Blade Trinity at least had, Jessica Biel looking hot. I'm confused.
Yeah. And for other people, Ryan Reynolds looking hot.
Yeah,
whatever you decide is hot, I guess.
Yeah.
Not to be
the fake Dracula.
Not to be a hater here, but
Dominic Parcells.
Yeah, Drake.
Dane DeHaan as Norman Osborn. I don't even know where that was generated from.
Somebody was
came
drunk
up with this idea.
Mm-hmm. Bad choice.
Yeah, we're really rambling here, so I feel like maybe we should be concluding this right about now.
Absolutely. With that, please find us on YouTube, find us on iTunes, Instagram.
If you have a ton of patience, find us on Sprecher.
Yes.
Spotify.
Facebook. and Google Play Music as well.
Yes, and from time to time, YouTube live stream.
Yeah. We will be doing more YouTube live streams as we go along, and we've got some exciting plans in the works, and we hope that you can join us in that. And if you can't, maybe someday we'll see you
at Doom's Comic Shop.
This has been The Real Short Box. We'll see you at the comic shop. Thanks for listening.